I am live. Are we live? Hey, welcome back. It's Monday. It's been a great weekend. I am back in the studio. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. Let's start by this, ladies and gentlemen. Meet your new director of the FBI. You have a picture? This is Mr. Dan Bongino. That's him. Director of the FBI. And let's just say that Adam Schiff and his cronies are probably shaking in the boots right now. Now think about the leadership that they have. You have the leadership of Kash Patel. You have the leadership of Dan Bongino. They need to bring back all the FBI whistleblowers that were kind of pushed out. And we need to literally drain the swamp. One of my fears is we're 30 days in and we haven't drained it enough. But that's not the only thing we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the tariffs, investments, kind of what President Trump is doing to kind of stir things up. He's stirring up everything all at once. Now, chaos always favors the op, never favors the people. But in this case, I'm wondering if the op is the people. That's not all we're going to talk about today. We're also going to bring on Darcy Schoening. So Darcy has worked inside the Colorado GOP. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because every day I talk to people that in Wisconsin and Michigan and Virginia and all these different states, there's a conflict. There's a rift that's being created between factions. And when I first actually talked to Darcy, everyone says, Joe, stay away from Darcy. And I go, okay, why? Oh, she's bad news. Now, I'm going to tell you that I bit into it. I bit into the she's bad news. And for the first 9 months, I was very skeptical of Darcy. And they said, okay, well, she did this, 15 years ago. And I go, okay, well, everyone has skeletons. Let me see the skeletons. So I saw it. And then I called Darcy up and I had a conversation with her. The same way I called up Dave at the Colorado GOP and had a conversation with him, who was endorsed by President Trump. And there's this underpinning and things that are going on. So we're going to untie it all. I'm going to have Darcy on and I'm going to ask him tough questions. Like, why is it that you constantly are under attack? And there is one reason that I know of, and that is when competency hits intelligence, a lot of people are afraid of that and they hate strength. So we're going to see if that's the issue. We're going to talk about that and more on Untamed today. So buckle up. Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. All right, where do we start? Where do we start? By the way, I'll take the comment. Joe, you look good in a jacket. It beats me wearing the hat, is what you're saying. I don't have any hats on me right now. So I had some pretty big meetings today. So on top of doing the podcast, doing other things, obviously I have to meet with companies about some of the other work that we do that's not tied to shooting guns. Let's start here. This is the truth post that was put up by President Trump. And great news for law enforcement and America's justice. Dan Bongino, a man of incredible love and passion for your country, had just been named the next deputy director of the FBI by the man who will be the best ever director, Kash Patel. Dan has a master's degree in psychology from CUNY and an MBA from Penn State. He was a member of the New York Police Department, New York's finest, a highly respected special agent with the United States Secret Service, and is now one of the most successful podcasters in the country, something he is willing and prepared to give up in order to serve. Working with our great new United States Attorney General Pam Bondi and Director Patel, fairness, justice, law, and order will be brought back to America, and quickly. Congratulations, Dan. Congratulations to Dan. And as it was just said in there, the Dan Bongino will be walking away from his show. And I want to play this. And here's something that you can like Dan Bongino, you can not like him. But you have to respect the fact that he's willing to walk away to serve his country. And he has what I would call FU money. So what I mean by that is that he doesn't have to work. He could walk away from it all. He'd be just fine. He's battled cancer. He's, at sometimes he's kind of what I call milquetoast on certain issues. He hasn't really stood up and talked very much about election fraud. It's kind of kept kind of middle of the road. Most of the reason why he does that is kind of like Kash Patel. It's not in my wheelhouse. Matter of fact, I had Kash Patel on last year, and I asked him questions. He's like, I don't know anything about that. So he will talk about the things that he has proficiency in, and he won't talk about things that he doesn't. Now, whether or not that could be equated as, he's going to just toe the line, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Here's what I'll say about that. He's willing to give up a very lucrative environment in his podcast to go serve the country. But that's not here for me. Let's hear what he has to say. Here's what he had to say about walking away.
And kind of broke down a bit because it was, this is now real. So President, Attorney General Bondi, and now Director, gosh, that sounds good to say, FBI Director Kash Patel offered this role, a role I expressed an interest in. And ladies and gentlemen, I told you, you see, it's hard for me. I'm going to accept the role proudly as the Deputy Director, the number 2 spot at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Folks, it's a lot to walk away from. I will tell you everything what happened within reason, and then I got a show to do, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen with the show. So it's going to be a pretty wild ride today. Man, do we have a lot to talk about.
Now, is Dan Bongino a good pick? That's for you to decide. I'm going to say the answer is yes. But here's a reminder. I just want to give you a reminder of what the man stood for. There are things that Patrick Byrne has said that I went sideways with him because I was in the room on January 6th at 8:00 at night when he walked in. And so I had questions. I had questions because everyone wanted me to distrust everyone. Now he's the one that I bounce stuff off of. Hey, I want to try this. I want to try this. And I don't have any questions about Patrick Byrne. Some of you have questions about Patrick Byrne. Some of you say, I don't trust Patrick Byrne. Which part? The guy that spent millions of dollars? It isn't even about him. Let's talk about this. I want you to see this. This is what he had to say regarding the weaponization of the FBI. The CIA, the DOJ, and ultimately the entire government. Let's play it.
Folks, they always accuse you of what they're doing. And because they're terrified that their tyranny is not going to continue if Donald Trump wins, they're now doing this simple distraction technique that has appealed to useful idiots for a long time and been used by commies, socialists, Soviets. They've used it forever. They just blame you for exactly what they're doing.
Politico recently spoke with former intelligence officials about how on edge the idea of a second Trump term makes all of them.
Are you freaking kidding me? Are these the same 51 intelligence officers who falsely bullshitted America? These scumbags, every single one of them. You hear me? Absolute scumbags. You don't like the word? Too bad. That's what you are. A bunch of scumbag wads. You guys. You guys. 51 of you pieces of who told America before an election.
50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plan.
During campaign season, you want to be able to understand everything that the Russians might do.
This laptop that would have changed the entire course of American history, would have kept the border closed if Trump got reelected, probably wouldn't be a Russian invasion of Ukraine, probably wouldn't have been an October 7th attack either. We'd be living in a different world right now because you 51 intelligence scumbags, knowing you were full of shit the whole time, now you've got the balls to say that Trump could weaponize the spy services? I'm demanding an investigation if Trump wins into all of these people for a conspiracy to interfere in an election and potentially worse. And Joe Biden's going to be the first target of that investigation. You will never, ever teach these people that deep state lawfare is wrong without exposing them to the same sets of rules they want to impose on us. Someone did steal an election, and Joe Biden was a field general in that war on election integrity. Listen to me. I want an investigation into this conspiracy to steal the 2020 election, and no, we shouldn't let it go. I don't want to hear shit about, oh, it's time to move on. It's not time to move on, or they'll do it again.
It's terrifying. It's frightening.
They stole this damn thing. They hid that laptop information. You know it. We know it. I want everyone as either, they better give depositions, and if they committed criminal activity, I want them charged too. The deep state is real. It's members of the media. It's intelligence community members. Here's the key, active and retired. It's bureaucrats within the government.
Mr. Vindman, you testified in your deposition that you did not know the whistleblower.
Ranking member, it's Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, please.
You testified in the deposition that you did not know who the whistleblower was.
Per the advice of my counsel, I've been advised not to answer specific questions about members of the intelligence community.
It is saboteurs inside the Trump administration last time. The deep state is real. The deep state is real.
Tell me, are you worried about this retribution concept playing out?
He basically is spelling it out. He demands an investigation. And what better thing to do than put that person at the head of the investigation? Just put him at the head of the investigation and say, you know what? Remember all the things that you wanted to have done? And he was very consistent in it. Now, what he wasn't consistent in, he's not an expert in. That is elections. And you would say, if you do not believe that the elections were stolen in 2020, and here's the problem with the message. If you don't believe the elections were stolen in 2020, then you don't have my respect. Because they were stolen in 2018. They were stolen in 2016. They were stolen in 2014, 2012, 2010, 2008. You go, Joe, how do you know that? Dating back all the way to 2000, when Clint Curtis came and testified in Congress, that they asked me to build a system that would allow them to switch votes. And what exactly has happened since 2000? And so I got to give Dan Bongino a free pass. He's a very popular podcaster. And more importantly than that, he just speaks what's on his mind. Doesn't have a teleprompter. He doesn't have anything in front of him that says, okay, these are the things that I want to say. These are the things that I want to push towards. He doesn't create hyperbolic environment. Now, he does support some people that I don't support. But that's okay. I'm not a Julie Kelly fan. I'm not. I got more questions than answers. And here's the thing that I want to say, because I know that I'm going to get smacked around for this. Joe, how can you, the left will do it, the right. I mean, we just want to tear things apart, tear things to pieces about where we truly are. Here's the thing that I will tell you. There are no perfect men. There's no perfect men. There's no perfect women. The perfection that we have collectively as people comes in the idea that we continue to be consistent in our character and head towards a goal of ultimately supporting truth and restoring things back to the American people. And if we can do that, man, I'm willing to set a lot of things aside. And so Kash Patel, I believe, will do an amazing job. Just a reminder, similarly to Kash, Dan Bongino is a major critic of this guy named Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is going to have a really tough life ahead of him. Here's what he had to say.
Adam Schiff has been the lead hoaxer. He's been out there on television now for a year, looking in the face of you, America, and lying to every one of you in an effort to distract the entire country on a hoax Russia scandal. He is a fraud, and he should be called out as a fraud. He has been lying to.
He also goes further. He's not just going after Adam Schiff. Here's what he has to say about the Mar-a-Lago raid. Let's play it.
Nobody was held accountable.
I was passionate about it for a reason. How many freaking times are we going to let the FBI interfere in an election? I mean, this is supposed to be a constitutional republic. I'm not crazy, right? Like, this is supposed to be a representative democracy. Banana Republic. We're beyond a banana republic. We're into like tin pot dictator third world stuff. This is embarrassing. At least Pravda didn't pretend to be anything but state apparatchiks. The FBI, and listen, I've been with you for a while. I work with a lot of decent guys. I'm done with the rank and file stuff, too. I'm done with it. If you took part in this, anyone who took part in this, anyone, I don't care who you are, an analyst or an upper-level manager, the next president who comes in office, they should schedule F as many people as they can in the federal government and fire every single person involved in this. Everyone. The receptionist in the FBI office who took a call on this should be fired. We are not a third world republic, supposedly. Sean, the difference between us and Kim Jong-un, right, is that we investigate crimes and then we look for people. We don't investigate people and then look for crimes. That is exactly what's going on. How many times are they going to investigate Donald Trump for how many different things before the American people wake up and realize this isn't an investigation of a crime in search of a person, but a person in search of a crime? And let me just add, one last thing on this, folks. I left my job. So no one's going to lecture me, oh, Dan, what would you do if you just do? There's no more we're just doing our job. You swore an oath to the Constitution. Have some balls, man. I left my job because I couldn't take what was going on. I gave up my pension and everything because something else mattered. You're not going to lecture me on anything. If you were involved in this constitutional abomination to our constitutional republic, you don't deserve your job today. And you will get no backing from me or anybody I know in the conservative movement going forward.
Now, I want you to remember something. Dan Bongino served in Obama's Secret Service. He later retired from the Secret Service and stated that what he saw and heard serving under the president was worse than people think. Now I want to read this. I'm going to read this in full here. This is ABC News. This is what they had to say about it. Obama enmeshed in so many scandals, says agent turned politician. Not agent, but agent turned politician. Has a picture of Dan Bongino. Let's go further into this article. Let me read something to you. Just a couple of parts in this. The fog of scandals in the Obama administration and an inside look at the Obamacare debate led him to turn in his badge. I was behind the scenes for 12 years. I've been in the room during some of the most important conversations. Bongino goes on to say, it's worse than people know. They'd be shocked, scared if they knew everything. I'll take it down. But here's the bigger part in all this. And I don't know if he has the ability to do this or not. Will he expose what he heard? Will the real corruption be exposed? And this is why I give Bongino look, everyone has a opinion about everyone. The Republicans adopted the opinion about me. I mean, you have the rhinos that came out and said, oh, Joe called for the death of Biden. I never did. Oh my gosh. You have people like, what's that faggot's name? Pulitzer. Sorry. I'll call him what he is. You don't like the word. Sorry. I get to slip up too. And I'm telling you that Pulitzer, the Antifa call never occurred. So I've got to go through and build an entire thing to combat pieces of trash that go on Roseanne Barr's show. And I'm the target. You want to know why? Competency and intelligence came together as one. And guess what happens? Like, go ahead, shoot at me. But it's not just one side that shoots at Dan Bongino either. Both sides. Now, there's a certain line that he has to like walk. It's very complicated when you get in a place where you're in the podcast world. You're a partner in Rumble. He's, I think, a 5%, 6% partner, something around there. He has quite a bit of a stake in Rumble. But there's something that happens when you immerse yourself in, not scandal, but in these relationships where you got to kind of walk softly. So he has relationships with and friendships with, people like Julie Kelly, he has all these different relationships. And then he has to pick and choose. Then he's left to no choice. Like, I don't believe that he wanted to take a stand against certain people. But he did. Because at the end of the day, some roots go deeper than others. And some, when you're in that realm, it makes it very difficult to stand by newer relationships. And some people that are listening to this know what I'm talking about. Others won't. You won't get the meaning behind what I just said. But my point is going to be really simple. Is Dan Bongino going to come in and do the things that are necessary in order to expose the institutional rot that we face? Because we got a lot of problems here. And getting rid of judges is difficult, but the judges in there now are weaponized in a way that is unhealthy. We have enemy lines that have been created where states are holding hostage people in those states, Colorado being one of them. I think that Kash Patel and Dan Bongino together can clean up the FBI. I also can say at the same time that one of the points of trepidation that I know occurs, I don't know this for a fact, meaning I talked to Kash Patel about it because I did not. But I know one of the points of concern is that you have these FBI whistleblowers and they came forward and they have been outspoken and they have their own podcast. They did all these great things to kind of elicit a response from the American people, to wake them up, to shake their cores. And I think one of the reasons why one of the first things to happen to bring back in the FBI whistleblowers, the reason why that didn't happen is because there's this fear that, they have this, that they might stand on that moral high ground that they rightfully should be on. But bringing them in back into, are they going to question my decisions now? So there's this fear, because when you're a whistleblower, you kind of stand on your own 2 feet. And so the trust becomes difficult. Well, now here's what I will say about that. I believe Kash Patel and Dan Bongino need to set aside any fear that they have of bringing back in people into the FBI like Kyle Seraphin, Steve Friend, Garrett O'Boyle. I can name off a bunch. But I think they have to shake it off. Phil Kennedy. There's a long list. I think they have to shake it off, and they've got to bring people in, and they've got to put them in positions of authority under the understanding that they will serve to root out the corruption and to reset the barometers within the FBI. I think short of doing that, you will never get to, both Kash Patel and Dan Bongino would do both themselves a disservice and the FBI a disservice, because they don't know how deep it is. And the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. So I'm going to say this again to Dan Bongino and to Kash Patel. If you want to have success, you've got to have a foundation of that success. You've got to set aside the idea that, hey, these guys broke rank, because there's a certain amount of it. Dan Bongino was a police officer in the New York Police Department for years, 10 years. And as a New York police officer, they don't break rank. You don't break rank. You don't do it. And in the Secret Service, he turned in his badge before he decided to break rank. He's like, here's my badge. But I'm going to say to Dan Bongino, you're a smart guy, Dan. You're actually smart. You served in the Secret Service. You served in the New York NYPD. You saw bad things. You probably stopped a lot of bad things. You probably stopped bad people inside the NYPD. You probably stopped them from being bad. You probably did the same thing on the Secret Service side, but you couldn't stand the stink of it any longer. And that led you to say, you know what, maybe I should run for office so that I can make a difference in the shenanigans that these people are pushing. But you cannot have a successful FBI. You cannot root out that institutional rot without bringing people in that you know unequivocally will stand shoulder to shoulder with you and will not shoot you in the back. And you have an FBI that, frankly, you don't know where the bodies are buried. Kash Patel does not know where the bodies are buried. Dan Bongino does not know where the bodies are buried. None of these people know where the bodies are buried. You need people that don't have a bone to pick. Their only goal in all of this was protecting the interests of the people. Those are who you need to bring back. Those are the people that you should have in positions of authority. And you could say, well, they don't have the experience that I need, or what. Neither do you. Let me just put it very clearly. Kash Patel, if we're going to go off the experience, does not have the experience to run the FBI. And you know what? I still would trust Kash Patel to run the FBI because intelligence and competence are right there. And a lot of what happens in running a successful organization is making sure that you root out the things that are your target. What is the TAM of the FBI that you need to address? And how do you address it? You address it with guys like Garrett, Kyle, Steve, Phil. I'm missing a bunch. I think there's 10 or 12 guys. That's how you do it. So now we get to the next part. We're gonna go to a commercial break, and I got some calls. When I said that I was going to interview Darcy, I had people that are my friends. Then Joe, what's the angle? I don't like Darcy. I had other people say, "Oh, you're interviewing Darcy. Why?" Darcy knows this. She's been under constant attack by people who, oh, she's a single mom. Oh my, I mean, you might as well just put a scarlet letter on her chest. See, we've decided we're going to pick and choose winners and losers. Darcy shows up every day, goes to work for the Colorado GOP. She sits right next to Dave. Dave is the Colorado GOP chair. You have factions that have been created in Colorado that have been dangerous, infiltrated by radical leftists. That's their entire deal. You got the Watkins, you got Todd and Maria Watkins. Maria's a left-wing nutball Democrat that came in. I was like, listen, I'm Democrat or Republican, I don't care. I come in. But these people were sent in to institutionally break up, to ingratiate, break up, and then develop and create factions within the organization. You got the Eli Bremers of the world, the horse jumper that was horse jumping Olympian, who, frankly, I think he got 8% of the vote, who walks around social media saying he's going to sue everyone for defamation, call the police on people that say stuff that's true about him. I mean, you have some of the biggest mental midgets that are out there that fire across the bow, and you have this thing that happens where everyone picks sides. I'm going to go to a commercial break. When I come back, I'm going to have Darcy on. I'm going to ask her some of those questions. Like, why are you so controversial? And you know what? She'll answer the question. And here's the reality about Darcy. At some point, man, before 2020, I had I had a relationship problem with a guy that ran one of the most successful restaurants in Colorado. I hated the guy. Like, I wanted to punch him in the face every day. I mean, I hated him. I had to see him. He was in my town. I had to see him all the time. And I actually don't know why I didn't like him. In 2020, I stood up and my whole life changed. But I stood up and I couldn't watch people in my community because of COVID and what they had done to, I knew it was enough. The years I spent in the Middle East and Africa, I couldn't figure out why I didn't like him. But I stood up And I remember going to a meeting because I organized this meeting with like 450 restaurant groups. And I was like, listen, you guys all stand up at the same day at the same time, and there's nothing they can do to you. Stand up and courage. And they all agreed, yeah, we're going to do it. And I had lawyers that I paid, and I built out software, and I did all this stuff, got it all done. I didn't close any of my gun stores at all. Didn't close anything. And John walks up to me and he shakes my hand. And I was like, what's going on, brother? How are you? And he's like, man, I'm just thankful for you doing this. Thank you. And then over the next 6 weeks, I got to know John in a different way. And I freaking love that guy today. So I was willing to say I didn't trust him. I didn't like him, all that stuff. You know what the reality of it is that he's my brother. And I wasted years of my life believing what somebody else said about him that wasn't true. And when I got to know him as a person, got to know him, like everything about him, he became my brother. So I will say the same thing here. We're going to go to a commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you right now, we don't know what we don't know. We'll be back. Do you want to get profits from the world's most productive oil basin? Bloomberg calls the Permian Basin the world's most important growth engine for oil production. Now there's a way for everyday investors to collect monthly checks from an incredible oil hotspot. It's not a stock, and it's not an ETF. Instead, you can actually own royalty rights on over 380,000 acres of prime oil and gas fields. The best part? 95% of all income from this investment gets paid directly to investors like you. You can simply sit back and collect the royalty checks month after month. You can get started with just $25 through any brokerage account. Visit oilboom2025.com to learn more about the opportunity from the Oxford Club's chief income strategist, Mark Lichtenfield. That's oilboom2025.com to learn how to start collecting Permian Basin oil royalties today.
Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Military, both active and retired, and first responders get up to 40% off memberships. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. Hi.
In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. Okay, we're back. While we were on a break, Darcy says, I've been listening to you. So I'm not going to wait a whole long. She's a director of special operations for the Colorado GOP. The Colorado GOP has been under massive attacks here lately. And it's not come from the left. It's come from the right. It's come from the people that say that they support it. Now, right, left, green, yellow, purple, people, Democrats, Republicans, everyone's tired of political parties. But what's happened here over the last 5 years is it's been crazy. So let me just tell you, she's a conservative leader in Colorado, director of special initiatives for the Colorado Republican Party. For the past 5 years, she has driven impactful statewide efforts, notably banning medical transitioning for minors. And she is a mom. She's also influenced school boards. She's been a fierce fighter. The more she stands up and stands for what's right, the more people literally attack her. It's crazy. She's held roles in numerous conservative groups. And she played a key role in securing the Colorado GOP 2024 Trump endorsement. She continues to serve on boards like the Colorado Hispanic Republicans, local charter schools. And she drives to protecting children and conservative values. So with that said, Darcy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Joe. It's an honor to be here.
Darcy, you spend a lot of your time getting attacked by people in conservative circles more than the liberal circles.
I do.
And you get upset. You get upset over that. I mean,
I don't know if I would get upset. I would characterize it as upset so much as it drives me to work harder and complete my goal of electing conservatives in Colorado and advancing our values. So I kind of tend to channel that into just being more aggressive. The more they attack me, the harder I fight.
Okay, so let's just talk about this. Dave he can't win. He can't win. I mean, and this is where I just draw a line on this kind of kabukiness of this. You got what's his name? Hurd. You got Lauren Boebert. You have literally it's as if the retarded have gotten a hold of the wagon wheels and the reins, and it's just all over the place. What is going on in the Colorado GOP? Like, why can't we just have one go forward strategy?
Well, that you answered your own question, because we don't have a go forward strategy. So without that go forward strategy, without all of us being on the same page and working towards the same goals, whether it's, all of us being involved in the school boards, going out to Durango to stand up for the kids out there that are being abused by the staff in Durango 9R schools, or whether we're talking about, all coming together to go testify on a Second Amendment bill, that's the crux of it, Joe, is there's no overall arching strategy. When we go ahead and implement that, then we should see less of the infighting. Now, obviously, we're in a blue state, so I like to say it's a blue squeeze. So you've got Republicans, and by and large, most Republicans start out just like Democrats. They start out saying, I'm going to be involved in my party. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do all the things it takes to flip seats and so on and so forth. But then in a blue state with Governor Polis and the way that the Democrats are here, they're constantly hammered by the media. They're beat down on. They're told that they're racist. They're told that they're bigots. Now, you and I, Joe, people like you and I, we don't care, right? We're like, call me whatever you want. I don't care. This is fun. I'm going to keep doing it. But the people that are not as strong of Republicans, they feel the intense pressure of being called names, of being called a bigot, of their kids being made fun of at school for their activism. And so one of the things that we need to do as a party is be reaching out to our members to help them become stronger Republicans, to educate them on what that means and to stand by them so that as they're getting attacked, people like you and I can stand on the front lines with them so that they continue to fight.
Okay, so let's talk about the initiatives in Colorado. Dave Williams was supported by President Trump. He stood up. He had some missteps, right? He went to look at election machines to run the ballot initiatives for the what's it called, for the caucus. Mm-hmm. He did that. That was stupid. I mean, everyone knows it's stupid. He eventually said, "Okay, I'm not going to have machines in there." We didn't have any sort of conversation. Like, there was never any conversations that ever had. Like the Colorado GOP, I feel like is kind of like I'm the leader, so here's what I think. Here's what I think we should do. We're only going to do that, and we fail to give anybody a seat at the table. Like it just feels like before Dave, it was KGB.
KGB,
KGB. So before, and she was embattled, and she basically is. She's worthless, and I say that because she tried to come into FEC United, she tried to run it, then lied about it, and then all of a sudden, so I get it. But Dave was supposed to come in different. Like this was supposed to be a different environment. And I felt like it's just the same old, and look, I'm going to ask you hard questions because there's people that want answers to hard questions. And so I want to get to the bottom of how we can get to a place where we can have parity between the people that are out there, they're doing the work on the ground, and the people that are inside the party. It almost feels like there's a gate. Even for me, there's a gate, and there shouldn't be a gate for me.
You're exactly right. There are gates. I've had to go through so many gates. If we were Democrats, we'd call it barriers. It's nonstop. I would say that 5-6 years ago, when I became hyper involved in El Paso County, that's when I started to realize that these people don't want to give me a seat at the table. And when you start to reach that type of mentality of people not wanting to let you sit at the table, then that tells you one thing, which is that these people, then they're not in it to save children. They're not in it to save our schools. They're not in it to advance our values. They're in it for themselves. Because if I want as many people at my table as possible, right? So do you. I don't care if somebody down the street is a huge rhino. If they can take an Excel spreadsheet and get a couple calls made so that we can get a candidate elected, or so that we can raise some money, at the end of the day, that's better than being left with all Democrats. So I think that we need to look at it from that standpoint. Why are we being blocked out? Why are we being told that we don't have a seat at the table? And the answer to that is because people like you and I, especially, we hold our elected Republican officials accountable, and we make them question the value of their own work. I recently did a long talk at Moms for Liberty about holding Republican school boards accountable, right? Because almost every single school board out of the 17 in El Paso County are Republican. But they all have the tranny porn in the schools. They all have anti-white curriculum. Well, why is that?
Wait, hold on, time out. I'm trying to get people in the comments to come to rally around you.
Sure.
So I agree with everything you're saying, and we're going to get to those issues, okay? But why isn't this something that everyone can rally around? Why isn't that we can't say Dave Williams say, hey, march that direction, tranny porn in the schools. Hey, march that direction. Everybody show up to this, and people just do it. Like I used to have people, 500, 600, 700 people will show up at a school board meeting. I would say, guys, I'll meet you there. We would show up, and we would piss everybody off. Like we were monsters for years. Now you can't get 30 people to show up because they're all fighting with each other about who's got better lipstick. Right?
I think I've seen that fight a couple times.
It's absurd. And then it erodes trust on both sides. And by the way, it's gotten me to the point where I don't have any patience. Because everyone tells me what they think is happening with Tina Peters, and I have a conversation with Tina, and I have other people that are involved in things that send me stuff, and then all of a sudden, out of left field, I got Fed 1 and Fed 2 that bark up there like, we're going to see her, and I'm thinking to myself, this is crazy. Just can we go this direction? Can we just say no tranny porn? Here you go. Boop. Help me.
Exactly. Well, and that's why it takes a leadership team. That's why it takes leadership that's strong, coordinated, and can see all the moving pieces. As I said earlier, we've got to all be on the same page. So if there's tranny porn in the schools, why are we not all working on it? Why are the volunteers not calling around and checking on the curriculum in all the schools? And then people with voices like me and whoever else, we draw attention to it and we keep it moving. And, we pressure the school board and we get people thrown off the school board and thrown out as teachers and so on and so forth. But we don't want to do that because, the Republicans in our party that are somewhat to the middle, they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want to be told that they're not doing the job that we elected them to do. That's a hard conversation to have with people. I've got friends that are elected that they're not doing what I elected them to do. When I went and knocked on doors for them, I didn't expect them to turn around and vote against the Second Amendment or vote for higher taxes. So we have to continue to work in the same direction, but also bring education to the table. So if somebody's not voting well, I'll use Mary Bradfield as an example, House District 21, down by the military. If she's not voting correctly, and she's a horrific voting record, but she continues to get elected by her constituents, is there some type of education that we can provide to Ms. Bradfield to say, look, these last couple of votes of yours, these were garbage. These were not conservative. And here's why. And here's what we need you to do moving forward. We have to be having these conversations and all moving in the same direction. That's how we get there. And it's not by getting on social media and yelling at each other. It's just about doing the work.
Is it ego?
It's totally ego.
Is it really good? So who has to be the first one to lay down the sword and to have some humility? And look, I tell people all the time, I have no patience for stupid, but I mean, certainly we have to get to a place where we're having better conversations. And right now we're not having them. Like, we're not having those conversations. And it's crazy because, I have certain people that I absolutely despise. I've decided that I'm going to talk about those people because there's a long train history of bad behavior, right? But then I sit in my head and I'm like, okay, but still, if those people came and said, all right, Joe, just stop talking about me, I'd do, okay. What's your platform? I mean, have we forgotten about the fact that there is a platform and that frankly, in the military, you have people that don't get along, soldiers. And typically they beat each other to death and then they walk back, wipe the blood off and go back to work. What's it going to take to get Colorado to get back to work?
Like I said, you're answering your own question. For us to get back to work, we got to get back to work. And that's what I want to bring to the table as a leader. As you said, you've seen me out there doing the work. You've seen me day in and day out, whether it's out in Durango standing for the kids, whether it's raising money, whether it's testifying at the Capitol. That's the work. Those are the nuts and bolts. So if we're doing those things, that's how we come together as a party. And by and large, it's not that difficult to do. We just have to do it. We know most people are lazy, Joe. I mean, it's easier to go on social media and bitch. It's easier to pick up the phone and call your friends and bitch than it is to actually go knock doors or make phone calls. And I think that's what we're missing. And to your point, I think you and I are very similar in this respect. I don't care who you are, and I don't care how much I disagree with you in this party or what you may have messed up. If you come to me and you say, look, I want to do better. I want to do better for this party. I want to represent our values more stringently. I need your help. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to be there every single time. Somebody could literally try to throw me under the bus today. And if you're sorry about it and you want to come together as a party, I am all for that. I mean, we're human beings, and forgiveness means a lot, and humility means a lot.
Yeah. So I will tell you that I was just telling the story about my friend John, who is probably one of the nicest people you'd ever meet, that I disliked for years. Like I think I probably would have, if given the chance, it would have been, I would have like thrown him around like a rag doll. And comes to find out he's an amazing man. Like I feel absolute regret for making him my enemy over those years, right? I feel regret. And I've told him this. I'm like, bro, I'll do anything for you. And I think he would say the same thing about me. And he's a prominent business owner and prominent, and has been multiple companies, done really well. But it was ego. In a lot of ways, it was ego. Couldn't even figure out the reason why I didn't got mad at him to begin with. I can't even remember, right? This is how retarded I was back
I know.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about some stuff that we're not going to solve the problem on the Colorado GOP, but it's the same problem in every state, and it is people that like to watch people fight. They like it. They revel in it. But if we can get back to just solving problems, I think it'd be really good. Tell me about the ban for medical transitions for minors in Colorado. And you've been fighting for this ban for a long time. And what hurdles did you overcome? And what hurdles are still in front of you?
Well, so I went before the title board in this last year in 2024 with an initiative, Let Kids Be Kids. And that was to ban genital mutilation and sterilization of children, which you would think would be, common sense, but we're in Colorado. So we had a really sound legal team at the Colorado GOP. The initiative was well written. It was airtight. And as a matter of fact, we went through the title board. We made it out of title board. So they said your ballot initiative meets the requirements of Colorado laws and it'll go on the ballot. And then it was maybe about a week or two after they granted that the title board came back and said, oops, we messed up. No, you can't. You don't get to put your initiative onto the ballot. And they used some crazy provision in the Constitution that's very murky and horribly worded. And now I know there's attorneys looking at it. But anyways, I told them, I said to the title board, I said, look, I know this initiative dies now because there's nothing after the title board other than the Colorado Supreme Court. So you'd be throwing $100,000, $200,000 at crazy leftists who wanted to keep Trump off the ballot. So I told them, I said, you are denying our ballot initiative because you're bought and paid for, because we're sitting 2 feet from Dana Griswold's office. Somebody called you, one Colorado, whoever it was, and said, you better not let that initiative through. And you back down. And that's what we're dealing with in Colorado. But all that to say, it's going to get better. By and large, the Democrats have been running this state like communism. But now that we've got President Trump and control of the federal government, we know that we have help at the national level. And so some of these things we're going to really, I think, start to see a lot of progress with. And we actually have in the last couple of weeks.
All right. So we're making some progress nationally. You actually have hospitals in Colorado that stopped doing gender surgeries, cutting off penises off of boys in January. They now have restarted the process of cutting off penises of boys in February. How are we going to address this kind of behind enemy lines deviancy that we're dealing with that contradicts what President Trump has already put out there? How are we gonna stop Colorado from this being this bastion of just evil? Because that's all it is.
Sure, it definitely is. So 2 ways. If we're talking about Denver Children's Hospital, I put out a statement on that. Like I said, we've got Trump on our side now. And so I have really started to engage the Trump administration to say, look, we need your help in Colorado because we've got a legislature that's going to continue to pass laws that are just blatantly unconstitutional. And by and large, the Trump administration is aware of this. So, they've obviously got people calling from all states all across the country right now, but Colorado is going to be a focus because of how oppressive it has become towards freedom, towards our liberties. But aside from that, I'll use the example of, I don't know if you saw what happened at Grand Peak Academy last year. There was a tranny that was 50 years old. He went by the name of Miss Sparkles. And he was telling the second,
Miss Sparkles.
Miss
I remember. I remember.
Yeah.
The freakish guy that wore the lipstick stuff. That was a fight. But the GOP was fighting over this guy. I'm like, are you kidding me? What is happening here?
I know.
Like there was two sides. Oh, leave him alone. He's a 50-year-old freak. Calling himself Miss Sparkles. Come on now. This isn't even real.
How far have we come as a party when we're saying, you know what? It's okay for your daughter who's 9 years old, to go into a stall in the bathroom and be forced to use a bathroom with a grown man urinating in the stall next to her. And I said to the president and the school board, I said, that is so wrong. And you know what the board president said? He goes, Darcy, you're letting your imagination run wild. The cracks in those stalls aren't big enough for anyone to see a penis through. And I'm like, is this clown world? Like, the fact that you just had to say those words out loud, this is ridiculous. So like, all of these girls are now at risk and they don't feel safe. And they were telling their parents they don't like to use a bathroom with a grown man in a dress, and they shouldn't have to. And I don't care if a part of our party says, don't be mean, don't say tranny, don't do this. Yes, you know what? There is something to be said about humility, like I said a minute ago, but you don't have any more humility when you're forcing yourself into little girls' bathrooms and telling kids they can be any gender that they want. So in that situation, we didn't have President Trump during that time, but just like you and a lot of people in our party, I went straight to social media. I put it everywhere. And we're talking the board email addresses, board phones, over and over and over. Hey, call this school, go protest outside this school, call this teacher. Because you know what? If the state legislature is going to allow this stuff to happen, then we need to at least make it painful for the people doing it so that they maybe think about their actions a little more. And he left the school. So, and I would literally say that had I not jumped in and done that and made things difficult for him, he would still be there. And it's gross. It's disgusting. So yes, we have to utilize the Trump administration, work closely with them, but then we have to use the tools that we have that are free. I mean, shaming people on social media, especially these trannies that want to go in little kids' bathrooms, that's exactly what we need to be doing.
Okay. So some other kind of notable things that you were involved in. I'm trying to let people kind of, the idea that you and I did not always get along, and we didn't know we didn't get along. People just told me stuff about you, and I was like, yeah, I don't like her. And then I met you, and I was like, well, what? Okay, why don't they don't like you? Why don't they like you? I even asked you that question. Why don't they like you?
Yeah.
You're like, I don't like me. And you're like, well, maybe I was a little harsh over here. Maybe I was like, so you made mistakes. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. I watch this, but you've done some good work in a lot of different areas. The monument trustees, they blocked the subsidy housing and clearing the homeless encampments. Tell us about that.
Okay. So my town manager called, this was back in 2022. He said, Darce, there's some developers, they've got this great project that's happening and they want to talk to a couple trustees before it goes to the board. And I said, okay. So I met the town manager and these developers and no other trustees. It was just me at a Mexican restaurant in Monument, just expecting to hear about some houses. And oh my gosh, this developer starts talking and he said, well, we're developing low income subsidized housing over by the cemetery in Monument. And I'm like, wait, what? We don't want that in Monument. We don't need it. We don't want it. And you could take it somewhere else. And he says, well, they've got similar projects have really good reviews in Aurora. I was like, well, good, go build it in Aurora, because Monument's a conservative community where you don't have to always lock your doors, where your car is safe in your driveway, where kids can ride their bike. And so I was livid. So I said to my town manager and I said to some of the board members, like, we got to stop this. And Everett said, you know what? No, we have to give it its due process. Don't say anything. It'll go to a vote. Well, you and I know how these land use decisions work, especially in small towns. It's going to go to planning. It's going to not even take very long. They're going to rubber stamp it. Then it's going to go to the board. And then guess what? Then I can't talk because it's quasi judicial and I have to sit there and do a fair hearing. So anyways, what I did was same thing. I just put the plans on social media and I asked Monument voters, hey, do you guys want a low-income subsidized housing project in Monument? Here are the developers' phone numbers. Here's the project. It's up to you guys. And guess what? After not even a day. It wasn't even 24 hours. The developers called and said, you know what? First of all, Darcy's a nightmare. But second of all, Monument's a nightmare. Your residents are, and we're leaving. We want no part of this. Good, but you weren't welcome here. That's why you got that type of reception. And of course, at that time, there were a lot of people, the fellow trustees and residents that lean more left, that said, oh, she overstepped her boundaries. You know, she didn't follow the process. You know what? When it comes to the health and safety and freedom of my family, process be damned. We're not having subsidized housing. And that's how I approach things. And that's why people don't like me. That's why they find me offensive. But guess what? I don't have subsidized housing near my home now.
All right. I'm going to go back to the gender transition deal because there's some stuff that I want to show. Right? I want to get back to this because you have children. Terrified every day that somebody's going to groom your children?
Well, my children are at a Catholic school, but they still catch wind of these things.
Have you met the Pope? I just want to be clear.
Exactly.
I'm going to get so much trouble for saying that. Okay, he's not my favorite Pope. Oh my gosh, craziness. Okay, so
I know.
I'm running out of time, and I want to be able to get this in. But there is a person that I actually think she's awesome. It's Erin, right? And I want to put these up if we can. This is a big problem, right? So, Teacher of the Year finalist accused of inappropriate relationship with a student. This is the third time. Go ahead and put this up. Third time. This is the third time that it's happened in Douglas County in just the last year. Third time. Arrested. Her name is Tara Johnson Swartz, 44 of Castle Rock. She was an English teacher at the STEM school. So you remember Castillo, whose son was killed?
John
right?
Castillo. Yeah.
John Castillo. He said this to me. He goes, Joe, that school needs to be shut down. Now remember, his son was shot and killed in the school trying to disarm a gunman. Whatever you want to call it. Inside the school. Right? And he said, Joe, the institutional rot, as bad as this STEM school is, this is the second time in the STEM school that they've had this issue in the last 2 years. And this is where the shooting occurred. This is like home base for grooming. I mean, what? And this is in Douglas County, the most conservative place in the city, in the country, or the state. And help me, please help me understand this. 2025, like literally, she was just named 2025 Teacher of the Year, one of 7 in a pool of 1,300. The page was deleted after Denver 7 published the story. They deleted it. Like Douglas County just said, okay, we're gonna act like it doesn't exist. And this is the person that was a stem cell person of the year, Teacher of the Year. Help me. Help me make this make sense. And by the way, this is the third time in the last 60 days in Colorado. One was in Jefferson County, where they didn't even tell the parents about that student moving in with the teacher. And the principal was a part of it.
It's disgusting. I mean, so schools, churches, what else? Daycare centers. We know historically, right, Joe, that those places attract people who can be pedophiles. That's not to say everybody working there is a pedophile. That's ridiculous. But by and large, people who want to abuse children, they're going to typically seek out places with lots of children, right? So you've already got a situation where there are people with bad intentions looking to work there. Now we've got teachers unions over the last several decades that have been infusing their grooming ideology into the schools, and they've been hammering it into parents' heads that the government knows best, teachers know best, kids should have pronouns, kids should be out, wearing fur and leather bondage stuff to school and whatever else they're doing. And so we've created an atmosphere that is accelerating an environment where pedophiles can take hold, where pedophiles can molest kids and abuse kids. So that's all it is. And we have to stop that cycle. So when you hear the left, they love to use terms for teachers like trusted adult. What is a trusted adult? The only trusted adult my kids know is adult me and their father. So who the hell is a trusted adult? It's not this woman. It's not the people in Jefferson County that are, sleeping with kids. We've got to get rid of that. And 20 years ago, 30 years ago when we were growing up, that this was not a thing. And it's because of the left, the teachers unions, and we can reverse it pretty fast.
Yeah. Well, it is an epidemic that we have groomers and pedophiles that are literally inside of our school system, and that the education curriculum is so rotted to the core because the Department of Education has pushed down these standards. It is the place that these bad people are hanging out. Now, they're saying that they're Republican. They are saying that they're conservative. And you know what? It doesn't even matter. Like, I will literally relent to the fact that I don't care if you're a Democrat. I actually don't care if you're a Democrat. You know what? I'm having better conversations, Darcy, with Democrats than I am Republicans these days. I am.
Same.
And I go, like, Ike ran for, he was a Colorado, what do we call it? Colorado House member, right?
Yeah.
Ike McCorkle. He likes guns. He's a Marine. He's a Democrat. I call him out all the time on his page, on his when he puts stuff up there. I'm like, that's not true. But I'm calling out Democrats, and they're sending me stuff all the time. Like, hey, Joe, what do you think of this? Hey, Joe, what do you think of this? I'm like, I think that's bullshit, personally. And they're like, well, why? You got to tell me why. And so I'll tell them, and then we'll get into conversations with them. Like my friend Martin sending me this stuff, and he says, regardless of what you think of Zelensky, Putin is a fascist dictator, and Russia invaded one of the allies, and now we're going on the Russian side of things. And the dangerous part is that we're alienating our allies. Most European countries are ramping up their defense budgets literally to prepare for the potential new enemy, the U.S. And I was like, bro, this is not true. Now for Putin, what makes him a fascist? What makes him a dictator? Show your work. Right? So I just said, show me your work. And people are coming back, and then he's like, oh, well, maybe I don't see this right. I made it a point to get away from Conservative Daily, the name, and get to the Untamed Truth, because I want to get to the Untamed Truth. One of the reasons why I have you on is I want to be able to give you space to talk about the things that you're working on, but also what does the future look like so that people can see you in a different light. Darcy, you have this really, really hard shell. You have a hard shell. Like it is like, it's like titanium. Like you walk into a room, somebody you don't like, you will literally give them fire. I mean, you will give them fire out of both barrels, and you'll probably even pull out a full grenade and stick it in their pants and walk away. Watch it blow half their body apart, right? And you won't even look back.
Right.
But that's not actually Darcy. That's not Darcy. So you gotta lay all that shit down for a minute, and you gotta talk about some things. You have two beautiful kids, right?
I do. Dexter and Alice. They are 9 and 10.
Okay. You raise them. You do this stuff with the Colorado GOP. You literally work 60 hours a week. Why do you do it? Number one, why do you do it? And frankly, how do you get to a place where you can just let go of the steering wheel and start collectively coming together and saying, look, I'm consistent, and I may have had my fall downs here, and you can hold me accountable for that. But how about we look at what the fruit of my labor right now and why I'm doing the things that I'm doing, and create those friendships like I did with John that maybe can just set aside the things that a snapshot in time that they use as a battering stick against who Darcy is.
Sure. So you're right. I do have a hard exterior. But, I have a hard exterior when it's appropriate. I have a hard exterior when it comes to, evil Democrats and all the things. But
There's evil Republicans. Let me just put it out there for the. Okay, just talking.
Good point on that. But by and large, I was just telling somebody the other day, where would I be if not for the Republican Party? I mean, I don't know any other way to live my life. From a very young age in high school, my mother and father were often embarrassed of me because I was usually fighting the high school administration in some way when something was unjust. And I would characterize everything that I fight for is to bring justice, especially for children that just want to be educated. So when I look at the Republican Party, I've really started to humanize people more. If you called me on tonight, Joe, at 2 a.m, or even if Todd Watkins called me at 2 a.m, hey, Todd, if you're listening, I'd still come and help you on the side of the road because that's who I am. And that's who we all need to be. I think I give myself fully to this party. I was in Durango a couple weeks ago, driving home after I was standing for kids out with that school board, and my kids were with their father, and I got rerouted through New Mexico because Wolf Pass was closed down. And that's a scary drive, especially at 10 o'clock at night. And I remember thinking to myself, like, what if something happens, And like my kids, of course they have their dad. But what if something happens to me and I'm out fighting for other people's kids? But my kids know, they show up. They come to my events. Dexter, who's 10 years old, spoke at Capitol Club last month about the trans agenda and some movies. They know that their mother is out fighting for what's right every single day. And I'm raising 2 more individuals that are going to do that when I'm no longer here. And that's the best that all of us can hope to do for our children. And so as chair of the GOP, I would hope to impart that on as many people as possible, that we give our all every day. We put in all we can. We wake up, we do it again, and we teach our kids how to do it. We teach our kids to fight for America. We teach our kids to fight for future generations, because if we don't, and if they don't, we have nothing left. And this is the greatest country in the world. It always will be. And we have to fight for it.
All right. How do people follow you?
So on Twitter, I'm at Darcy and then the number 4 CO. But usually if you go to Facebook or anything and type in Darcy S, I come up right away. I mean, my name is unique enough that you can find me on any platform. Google my name, my phone number's right there, but it's 630-796-5885. I take calls from anybody, whatever you need help with.
Put your phone number out there. You have no idea how many people are watching this podcast. That is a dangerous thing to do.
I don't care. Even if it's Democrats that want to call me and threaten me, go right ahead. I mean, that's what I do. It's on every email that goes out from the GOP, Joe.
Jeez.
My cell phone. Yeah. So I'm always here for you guys. And Joe, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for standing for me. Joe has been instrumental in my life, especially in the last year, as people have attacked me. And I think really highly of you, Joe. You're an integral part of Colorado, and I just appreciate you so much.
Well, I might run for governor. I'm thinking about it. So might be
Are you going to?
I might. Thinking about it. I'm putting it out there. I don't see a lot. I keep meeting with candidates and having conversations with them. And, here's the thing. I met with a couple last night, a couple lawyers, and had the conversation about, what it is that I see in Colorado and that the people have been left behind. We're behind enemy lines. The people here are institutional slaves, and we deserve a chance. I mean, the kids deserve a chance, and not just the kids that are in my neighborhood, because those kids, it doesn't really affect them. Like we have the ability to move past it, but the kids in the inner city, the people that are the most vulnerable among us, those are the ones that I literally would run for a governor for, because this whole idea that, you can create a motto and that actually reaches into the hearts of the people in the community. I know what reaches into the hearts of the community: opportunity. So if we can eliminate the opportunity deserts that get created and talk into the lives of everyone, right? And not the radicals on the left or the right. I have no patience for them. But if we can talk into the lives of the people that we've basically discarded, and we've discarded a large portion of the, call them Democrats. We've discarded them.
Yeah.
And so that leads me to the place where can we run? And I've thought about running as a Democrat. Just kidding. That's a lie. That'll never happen. Ever. Not in the history of humankind would that ever happen. So I haven't really thought about that.
That's going to be clipped, but okay.
No, it's good. They can put you.
I know.
But my point is that we've got to get to a place where we honor God and we honor our community. And that is not a Democrat. That is not an R or a D. And, I'm universally hated by radical shitbags on both sides of the aisle, and it's fine. I'm good with it, right? But the thing that I do is that I will run towards the things that I think are important, and my brothers and sisters, whether they're came from the ghetto of Aurora, Denver, or some of these other barrios that we do have in Colorado, or if they came from the wealthiest areas out there, we have to have parity between the people and the leadership. And right now we don't have that. So I'd like to see that happen. So Darcy, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
All right. God bless you. Talk soon.
You too.
All right. So Darcy didn't expect any of those questions, but she's done a lot of work. She's done a ton of work in the community that nobody ever looks at. Nobody ever sees. Dave Williams does a ton of work, served in the Colorado legislature, got attacked for being pro-China. I mean, anything and everything that the left could put out there, the right carried in these rhino organizations. And so we've forgotten, President Trump's the one that stands up and talks about things. I didn't realize how synergistic some of the things that I would say, and even some of the words that like Elon would use. And he's much smarter than I am, obviously. He runs $1 trillion company. But and I wasn't smart enough to stay out of politics before I made $1 trillion. And now I don't want to make $1 trillion. I just want people to stop being assholes and give our kids some opportunity. But we have created an environment where it's like high school. And I'm guilty of playing in that. I'm just as guilty. I'm less guilty now than I was. But I'm still guilty because we don't like being attacked. We don't like being questioned. We want to punch people in the face for stupid reasons, for ego. And I would say I'm guilty because, my tolerance, because over the last 4 years has gone near to zero. And there gets to be a place where you don't want to forgive people. You just want to punch people in the face. And then you come back. So you find yourself going to this back and forth. Apollo, I go back and forth, don't I? Where I can, when I get in the mode or the mood, I can listen to someone who I think is being retarded. And then other times where I'm like, man, just here, take my jacket so I can punch this guy right in his jaw.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
It's rather human. You know what you look like right now?
No.
I'll be your huckleberry.
Well, I mean, if I am so obliged.
So obliged. Oh, how you doing?
Well, I could chew on it. I'll be your huckleberry.
Yeah. But everyone needs to see, you need to see it from the perspective, and I'm just being honest. I don't know if many people out there that liked to fight. I loved to fight. I loved it. Loved it. Man, I loved it. And I love to win. I mean, I love to win. But I don't know many people out there that love to fight that can abandon that sort of mentality. Sorry, I was having a flashback there for a minute. But I don't enjoy the fight now. I don't want to hurt anybody that's hurting. That makes sense. Kind of just want to get to a place where we can have some, peace, I guess. We'll move past it. Anyway, Darcy's really good. Done a lot of cool stuff in Colorado. We need to get kind of our shit together there and stop fighting with each other. And frankly, stop putting out stupid stuff where you attack everyone and create these like 5-edged, factions like we're in high school. It's just stupid. All right. So I want to talk about what's coming. And the left is signaling some things economically. And we have to look at it from the perspective of, okay, what's going to happen next? what's going to happen? Are we going to, you have some analysts that are pretty much on the far left that see that all of the underpinnings of the grift and graft, USAID, the Department of Defense. I mean, there's so much. They don't have. If the United States was a company and it ran on QuickBooks, which it doesn't, but if it ran on QuickBooks, it runs on a program that is archaic, right? It's a ledger system. Matter of fact, if you do business with the government, they use a system called punch outs where you send them invoices and it has a gate and you can get to it, but so they have these intraweb things. Anyway, if they had a thing like QuickBooks, a financial thing, and you have, assets and liabilities, the United States right now, you couldn't run a program on it. If you broke it out by organization, you couldn't run a program on it. I've heard of several people that I guess may have talked to other people that are working on some of this audit stuff. They talked to them about how big of a mess it is. And their comment is that the reason why they get into the Social Security Administration and see tens of thousands of people that are over the age of 200, and the left tried to explain it away as, oh, no, that you don't understand how the date fields are figured and it automatically replaces it with this date. If that's not true, they ran the query of what was going into the Social Security Administration against a known database of people, dead or alive. They ran it. They actually ran the information against the database. So it's not, what they're saying is not true. And so when you cover up all these holes and you have all this stuff, you have the left saying that you're going to put 5 million people out of work. Let's say that 15% of the government workforce collectively gets fired. Okay, so 5 million people. Let's say 5 million. And I mean government meaning we start doging the states as well. That's going to send our economy into a spiral. And I said, look, I don't think you understand economics. I tried to talk on one of the things about economics and that you have pluses and minuses. Basically, think of our economy as two sides of a scale. And when you take entitlements off the scale, you also take pay off the scale. But entitlements and pay are on two different sides. And people are like, no. Entitlements are what we get from the people, and pay is what we give to people. And I'm like, exactly. So if you cut the government by 5 million people, there's a natural leveling that happens. Those people have to get into this open space and they have to go compete in the marketplace. And frankly, most government workers can't compete. They don't have any real skills other than being a government worker and pushing a button and getting paid an absurd amount of money. Let me tell you this. In the last 4 years since Biden was in office, the number of millionaires serving in civil service has gone up by, I think, 500%. And what happens is someone goes and retires after 20 years and has a pension for $150,000. They go get another job for another 4 years and something different. And $150,000 a year in a pension turns into $300,000. Then they go get another job for 2 years. And then it goes from $300,000 to $550,000 a year. And then they go, you think I'm kidding? Imagine this, just going 10 years in one deal and then 10 years in something else, and then using that and getting, they have these called multipliers that you can have in the government that says, okay, now you're at 55, you can actually retire and get 100% of your total pay. What's happening? See that building shake? That was ooh. Anyway, so let's just talk about that's the left. Now let's take it to the other side. Trump made these announcements, and I think this is important. And this is going to be something that President Trump has talked about, but Apple is going to spend over $500 billion in the U.S. over the next 4 years. This is the largest capital spend in the U.S. and company history. Now, for you guys to understand this, Apple has been on the sidelines. They've been hiring people to go tell you that they're for data privacy while they're collecting data. And they're basically, they own the market. The guys that are the quietest in all of this are typically the guys that are running things. But $500 billion is what's going to be spent over the next 4 years. It's the largest capital spend. And I need you to know why it's so huge. So I'm not going to play the video of why it's huge. I am going to play the video on why it's huge. Why is this commitment? So Axios co-founder had this to say about this. Why is this such a big deal? Let's go ahead and hear it from Mike Allen.
This Apple announcement this morning, which just popped 6 a.m. Eastern, all the details are up, the lead story on Axios. This is a landmark story for a couple of reasons. One, the effort by the president to bring manufacturing back to the U.S., this is a massive commitment to that. And as we say in our story, this gives Trump the leverage to say to other companies, Apple can do this. Apple is bringing these jobs into the U.S. Apple is investing in the U.S. Why can't you? Why won't you? And the statement out this morning from Apple CEO Tim Cook, talking about being bullish on the future of America, talking about writing an extraordinary new chapter in the history of American innovation. So that's one bucket. Two, there's an incredible footprint for this. This is all across the United States, and it's part of the big story that Axios has been telling, that it's no longer just the coast. Look at where some of these big investments are. The swing states of Arizona, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Nevada, red states, the massive investment that you were talking about in Texas, a big innovation lab in Michigan. So a footprint all across the country. And third, if you look at how the U.S. is going to have a sustained recovery, it's going to be about building things, making things, doing that more in the U.S. This is a big step toward that.
Okay, they're planning a factory where exactly? Texas. They're not planning a factory in California. Why? And that's not all. I mean, look, Apple's smart enough to figure out what the writing on the wall, and they're very bullish about America. They should be. But that's not all the things that are happening. The tariff war is continuing, and you see the left that's on X and other places that say, that this tariff war is going to tear at the fiber of America. It never has, by the way. It never has. In the history of the United States, dating back 150 years, it never has. Anytime we've gotten into tariff wars, we've won. And here's what Scott Bessent said specifically, and he says, if countries keep rigging the system, tariffs stay. If they play fair, we adjust. This is where you create equilibrium around the world, rather than us being the ones that become the slave state to the tit of many nations. Let's go ahead and play it.
The nature of reciprocal tariffs is that if we start matching, whether it's the EU, that any other country in the world with reciprocal tariffs, we're just doing what they're doing and then adding in these other factors. If they remediate those, which is path dependent on their reaction function, if they do that, then their tariffs could drop. If they want to be recalcitrant, if they want to continue these unfair trade practices, then the tariff wall will go up until they are willing to negotiate.
Okay. That we're willing to negotiate because we want to make sure that it's fair, that what we're doing is fair. But there's a proponent, this guy's name is Drew Greenblatt, and he's the CEO of Baltimore-based Marlin Steel. And he had this to say, and this is a couple minutes, but it's going to talk about the parity between, American products and foreign products. And when you have an equal playing field, that the United States typically wins. Let's go ahead and play it.
We're in favor of the tariffs because we make everything in America. Our factories are in Baltimore, Indiana, and Michigan. We use American steel, American workers, and we're leaning in on American manufacturing. We're excited about American manufacturing in the future. We have an amazing safety record. We've gone 2,200 days without a safety incident in our Indiana plant, 1,100 days in our Maryland plant. We really take great care of our employees, and we're competing with countries like China where they don't have the same kind of focus on their employees. And, we're competing with countries that despoil their environment and they're debasing their currency. It's challenging for the American factory worker to compete with that.
So then, Drew, it sounds like you're saying you support these tariffs from a competition standpoint so that the imports are more expensive. And I'm inferring that means that your products can continue to be sold at the same price without increasing the cost to other businesses or customers. Is that accurate? Are you committing to keeping your prices as they are now?
Right. We need a level playing field. That's all we're asking for. The American worker can compete with any worker in the world. We're very creative. We're very imaginative. We have wonderful ideas on how to improve companies' throughput. We make wire baskets here. We make wire racks here in Baltimore. We make sheet metal fabrications. And we export to 45 countries throughout the world. And it's because we have 7-degreed engineers. They're phenomenal. This is what makes us different. Our challenge is that we're competing against governments like the Chinese government, which has steel mills, and they have steel basket factories, and they're competing with us. And then they subsidize the steel, they subsidize the labor. We don't have those kinds of subsidies. We just want a level playing field. If we have a level playing field, the American worker will win. We have 12 million American factory workers in America. How do we get to 25 million factory workers? That's what we should be thinking about. If we have a fair and level playing field, our American factory workers will thrive and prosper. We can really pull people from poverty, bring them into the middle class. It's so exciting.
Pull people into the middle class. He's talking about ending opportunity droughts. President Trump, in just the last 30 days, has gotten commitments. Let me put this up there for you. For just over $1.6 trillion in investments. $1.6 trillion. Now, you have people out there that are saying that President Trump is going to ruin everything. He's ruining everything. We're going to have this collapse that happens because you get rid of government workers that aren't doing any jobs. You have Elon Musk that is coming out and saying, show us your work. Show us your work. So I put a post up there on his thing that says, he says, well, they should be able to write down at the end of the week the 5 things that they have to do. Let me just tell you, everyone inside of this company has to do what's called an ADR or MDR, ADR, AWR. After day review. Some people have to give me an after day review every day. And AWR is an after week review. You have to tell me, show me your work. What did you do this week? If you don't send me an AWR or an ADR and you're on ADR or an AWR, you're gone. I'll fire you. It's pretty simple. And so government workers, it's called accountability. I had somebody that came in and said, well, I'm a landscaper and I don't have to tell what the man does. Blah, 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 blah. Did this whole thing, this diatribe. And I was like, okay, all right. He goes, my people, I don't treat them like children. I was like, okay, no, you're in a field where the work product speaks for itself. That your workers have to do an ADR. And that ADR comes in the fact that you walk up to it and be like, yep, that checks. Yep, you did the work. After week review, the product's supposed to be done. It's not done yet. Like, what the hell's going on? Your AWR is like, you didn't do the work. What you got 50 hours in this week. This should be done. And he relented and said, damn it. Caught me. Now I'm going to talk about this for a minute. Apollo, what have I talked about that you don't own? You don't own your house. You don't own your car. You don't own anything. I go, you're an institutional slave. I had this conversation with 11 policymakers from 5 different states, one of which being Florida. They were like, look, Joe, these are great ideas. These are people, by the way, that hate me. They hate me. They hate me. Joe, I can't believe that you come out too strong. We don't like you. Okay. What don't you own, Apollo? You own your home?
No.
Why?
Because you don't pay taxes on it for the
Come get
right
it.
to own the home that you already bought. They will take it from you.
Play this. Play this. This is this is Ron DeSantis. I'm not telling you. Look, you can go back and look what I've been talking about for 4 years. In 4 years' time, Apollo, what have I talked about getting rid of?
Taxes.
Property taxes. You should own your home.
Yep.
You should not be beholden to the government to come and just steal from you. Ron DeSantis had this to say.
Subject their citizens to higher taxes, such as higher property taxes, to pay for these spending habits. And these property taxes, it's like you buy a home, you buy land, maybe you buy the home outright, but maybe you pay off a mortgage over 30 years. And then, okay, you've paid off the mortgage, you bought the land, you've been taxed many times. It's like, is it your property or not? Just for being on your property, you got to write a check to the government every year. So you're basically paying rent to the government to live on your own property. And our homestead exemption is not strong enough to help these folks because the property gets assessed so high. And that's the thing. If you buy a home for $300,000 and there's certain tax, well then what? 10 years later, they say it's worth $700,000. And so, and they say, there's homestead stuff that helps protect you to a certain extent, but you're paying more. And a lot of people can't afford that. So I think that that's a big issue. And I know we're going to be really looking at ways to bring people relief from that, because I think it's been really something that's pinching a lot of homeowners, particularly seniors on fixed income. But the reality is people have seen, and this is not the state, we don't control this, we've not allowed any of that stuff to happen. We've been cutting taxes, but people have seen their property tax liability go up over these last years because the property is being assessed higher and higher. And the reality is you don't really know how much your home is worth until someone offers you money and is willing to pull the trigger on a sale. That's how a market works. You can say it's worth this much, but if no one's willing to come and offer you that much, then why should you pay taxes on that amount? And so there's a lot of things that need to be done with that. But as part of our DOGE initiative, our state task force will look into local government expenditures by utilizing publicly.
Our DOGE initiative. Let me just tell you something. You should not ever pay property tax. They have literally stolen everything from you. Little by little, they have taken a bit of your soul and made it impossible for you to do anything. You cannot hunt. You cannot fish. You cannot go to the park. You can't camp. You can't drive on the roads without paying. You can't buy a car without being taxed. You can't have a business without getting property tax on personal property you use for that business. Everywhere you turn, the government puts their fangs into you and takes from you what is not theirs. And then they build big buildings while they ignore the education standards for children and allow teachers that are teachers of the year to groom children. That's what we get to do. And then we revere them until they're caught because someone, and you're not going to want to hear the story of how this teacher was caught. They knew before the person even was nominated for Teacher of the Year. They knew about the allegation. They swept it under the rug. They hid it. I believe at some point there has to be accountability. And there has to be a place where we get back to parity with the people. And right now we don't have it. Nationwide, no property tax. That's why I would run for office. And they would attack me every which way but Sunday. And I don't care. Because most of these people have never created a business. They've never stood up. They never came from where I came from. They didn't come from nothing. Nothing. And it's so hard for people that came from nothing to get to something because they put so many obstacles in front of them. And look, I was blessed. There was opportunity put in front of me, but how many people didn't have that same opportunity? How many people weren't seen as the ones that that were worth it? So let's get to the funny part so we can roll out. I'm getting ready to go on to a segment with RT Network. I'm going to go live with them in about 10 minutes. Here's what President Trump said yesterday. He put this up. You got to laugh about this. He put this up and dealing with the list that Elon said that everyone had to put out. Got done last week. Cried about Trump. Cried about Elon. Made it into the office for once. Read some emails. Cried about Trump and Elon some more. just the idea of having to be accountable is unbelievable. Whew. And then I want to make this announcement. We have joy in the world. And President Trump had something to say about Joy Reid being fired. He smokes NBC and MSNBC. The mentally obnoxious racist Joy Reid and lots of others. Let me read this to you. Low-life chairman of Comcast, Brian Roberts, the owner of ratings challenge NBC and MSDNC, has finally gotten the nerve to fire one of its least talented people in television, the mentally obnoxious racist Joy Reid. Based on her rages were virtually non-existent, she should have been canned long ago. And with everyone else who's worked there. Also thrown out was Alex Wagner, the sub on the seriously failed Rachel Maddow show. Rachel rarely shows up because she knows there's nobody watching. And she also knows that she's got less television persona than virtually anyone on television except perhaps Joy Reid. Then there's, of course, the low IQ con man, Al Sharpton, who has perhaps the lowest TV ratings in the history of television. What is he doing to Brian Roberts to stay on the air? The whole corrupt operation is nothing more than an illegal arm of the Democrat Party. They should be forced to pay vast sums of money for the damage they've done to our country. Fake news is an unpardonable sin. Freaking men. Amen. Amen. Here, just for the laughs, just so I can show you, here's the moment in honor of Joy Reid, moment of silence, where Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow realize that Trump is going to win the election. Let's go ahead and play it.
Trump has now taken the lead in Bucks County.
NBC News now projects that in the battleground state of Georgia in the presidential race, Donald Trump has prevailed. The Republican Party will control the United States Senate. This is live from Howard University in Washington, D.C.
We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted. Thank you all.
A short and to-the-point statement from Cedric Richmond, the Harris campaign co-chair. You now see them turn as one to start to leave the grounds.
The evening was getting increasingly somber as people realized what this map is looking like. They turned off the TV set and just piped up the music because the room was starting to get increasingly somber.
You know, we always knew it was going to be down to the blue wall, and the blue wall is still uncalled at this point. But it sounds like the Harris campaign is sort of keeping things tight in terms of whether or not they're going to string people along into thinking this is going to happen.
What they went to that venue tonight hoping to see and witness was a historic election of Kamala Harris to the presidency, was the end of the Trump era as they knew it. And so we don't know the outcome yet, but that is not what they are receiving, and they are being told to go home and wait till tomorrow.
And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. You know, I mean, she had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Swifties. She had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign.
In Western Europe and in the UK and in the Middle East, people are waking up to this.
Oh, and they are.
I've gotten people from Western Europe who are extraordinarily alarmed and terrified.
May I reiterate, there are 2 of the 7 swing states that have been called by NBC News right now, which is Georgia and North Carolina. None of the other 5 states have been called at this point. You can see this is the battleground states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, the so-called blue wall. None of those states called by NBC News. In the swing state of Pennsylvania, NBC News now projects that presidential contest has been won by Donald Trump. It presents an insurmountable future here for Kamala Harris and for the Democratic ticket. Let's watch as Trump takes the stage in Palm Beach, Florida.
We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
I can't. Reliving that day was amazing. But I'm going to give you all the props to the only one that was responsible for that night, and that is God. Like, God delivered in so many ways. We got on this show and we prayed every day. Every single day we prayed that God would deliver what God wanted to deliver, and he would use us in ways that we could make sure that we maintained our courage, we maintained our stamina, that we fought through and exposed all the evil, and we continue to this day to fight through it. We're only 30 days in. And there's a lot of bad people that are vying for Elon Musk and President Trump and others, and they're not, it's not over yet. We can't, like, they're regrouping. You know who else is regrouping? Apollo? Soup Salad. Soup Salad is regrouping. Let's go ahead and play this last cut. Oh, no, this is not the last cut. Play this cut. This is somebody that is going to talk about the fires in LA, which, by the way, the fires in LA were 100% caused by people that caused the fire. I mean, they were arsonists, radical leftist arsonists. Let's go and play it.
What goes through your mind when you see this? You're here, you're now seeing it up close.
It's not only seeing it, Alex, you can smell it. You can feel it, right? So it's seeing it with our eyes, and many people have seen it. You all are covering it. But to literally be on the ground here, you can smell the smoke that was here. You can feel the toxicity, frankly, of the environment. You can feel the energy of all of the folks who are still here on the ground.
I don't even know what just happened. You not only can see it, you can smell it. And you can smell it on the ground. As you see here, while you're on the ground, you can smell it and you can see it. And you know, when you see it, you can actually smell it. And when you can smell it, you can see. This is the most retarded woman in the world. She would win the award. Guinness Book of World Records, that would be her, for sure. And there's a reason why Soup Salad retard and Basement Biden, the guy that literally was known, he was known in Washington 20 years ago as the dumbest person on the Hill. I'm not kidding. Ask anyone. He was the dumbest guy on the Hill. Was him. So just to wrap up, this is what President Trump said, and it rings true more and more every day. He did this, and he said this the night that he accepted the fact that he won. Let's go ahead and play it.
They're going to come and say to me, sir, we're winning too much, sir. We can't take it anymore. We have to stop winning, sir. We can't do it. We're not used to winning in our country. And each one of them is going to say, every single one, sir, please, please, you're destroying our country. We're winning too much. Our country isn't prepared for this. They're not used to winning, sir. And I'll say, no, Linda and everybody, we're not going to stop winning. The people of our country want us to keep on winning, and we're going to go win like never, ever before.
Where you just keep winning. All right, let's pray it out. We're done for tonight. I got to go on RT. You can go to RT.com and watch me. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on in Ukraine. I'll talk about it there. We'll talk about it here. Let's pray it out. Father God, thank you. Thank you for just the amount of wisdom that you've put on the leadership in our country. Thank you, Father, for the patience that you've had with us as we did not take care of our land. We did not take care of the things that were in front of us, Father, and these trees and weeds grew up, and now we're tending to the land of our nation, Father. We're tending to the soul of our nation. So, Father, we thank you for the grace that you've shown all of us, and for the amount of blessings that you've poured out on this great nation, even despite all the things that we've allowed to occur and the cancer to grow. Father, we ask you to bless our leaders, that they may be endowed with certain powers to kind of straighten out what's happening across our country and to serve and help the most vulnerable and the most needy among us. That we never want to abandon the ability to care for our brothers and sisters of our nation and to remove the deserts that have been created in areas of disadvantage for Americans. Father, I ask you to give our leaders the wisdom that they need, to give them the voice of reason, to convince the fools to step away from the evil doers. And that's on both sides of the aisle, Father. Father, I ask you to allow us to still be a part of this restoration, to restore you to every part of our community, or every part of our country, from the schools to the churches, to even the apparatuses of government. And Father, I ask you to be able to pull back the veil on these judges, pull back the veil on just the evil of the judiciary, and to work the problem so that we can get rid of these evildoers. I ask you, Father, that you will give us the patience and you will give us the vision to be able to see what needs to happen next. We ask for these things with an amazing amount of gratitude, Father, for the things that you've put in our lives and for the peace that you are rolling out across the world. I ask for these things, Father, humbly, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, we will see you guys tomorrow. Same time, same bat station. Remember, hit the little button, the up arrow button stuff. Make sure you put that up there. And, for Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. Go there, download us, give us a 5-star review. Do all the stuff that you do there. You can find us on Rumble, find us on Untamed Nation, and we got lots of other stuff that we're rolling out. God bless you. We'll see you soon.